Welcome to the 8:30 p.m. podcast. My name is Rishabh.
And my name is Arnav. On this podcast, we talk about tech, learning, and other interesting topics.
Today, in our Explainer series, we'll be explaining about martial arts. But first, Arnav has to finish something he was talking about last time.
Okay, so last time I talked about programming languages and some basic concepts. I think the last thing I want to cover is the difference between compiled and interpreted languages. So, do you know what that means, Rishabh?
No idea.
Okay. So, do you know what actually, I'll start here. So, when you're programming, you code in like a language, right? And it's kind of like human readable, if you know what you're saying. So, for example, in Python, you might have print something, it prints out something into the console. But the thing is, your computer does not understand English, right? It does not understand the English typed version. So what you have to do is you have to convert it into something that your computer understands. So so there's two ways of going about this. So many languages have things called compilers. And so in a compiler, it takes your code. It kind of reads through your code, make sure there's no basic errors. Maybe you're calling a function on a variable that does not exist or something like that. So it takes out those, or it gives those errors. It shows you, it checks for those. And then it translates that into machine-readable code. So, for example, Java, which you might have heard of, is a compiled language. So that means you have a compiler that reads your code and converts it into a binary, which can be understood by your computer. And Java is kind of weird in that way, because the compiler produces .class binaries, .class files, which have the binary instruction set of your program, and then that binary you have to put through something called the Java virtual machine, which is it's kind of hard to explain. But I think a better example of compiling languages would be C. It's C family of languages. You compile it into a binary, which can be executed by your computer, right? You don't have to put in through some random virtual machine or something. You just run it straight on your computer. And so that's one approach of doing things. But there's another way of making your code run on a computer. That's through interpreting your language. So basically, interpreting is it's a bit hard to explain, but you're giving the computer, or you're giving a interpreter your code, right? Which is an English readable format, and then it's able to execute those. So I don't know how it works behind the scenes in the interpreter. Basically, that's kind of it. So, I mean, there are some trade-offs between performance when it comes to interpreted languages, because Python or JavaScript, which are two examples of interpretive languages, there the interpreter has to read and interpret your code, whereas in C or C++, it takes the binary that the compilers produce and it just runs it on the hardware, which is much more efficient if you think about it. And also, I think that's it for compiled and interpreted languages. And I think the other thing, I think I'll mention a few more languages that I forgot to talk about. So there are a few new ones like Go, which is just Go. And that's created by Google, and now I think it's gaining in popularity. It's kind of like Python, where it can be used in many places. Other than that, I don't think there's that much, because I think there's a lot more, but I could explain it in like different sections. Like I think we could do like one thing on like databases, like more about databases, right? Maybe a bit more about AI, but I think that's it. So I think now we can start on martial arts.
So, what do you want to know about this amazing topic?
So, I don't know, like, how do you tell, like, a layman like me, who knows nothing of martial arts, like, how do you start them off?
So, how would I explain a martial art? A martial arts is a type of lifestyle, I would explain it. It's a mental and physical type of lifestyle. Being a martial artist means you could be a lot of different things. In modern day US, I know I'm really showing off our location in the amazing US of A, but in US it's kind of turned into a children type of daycare center for a lot of martial arts. Even my martial arts dojo does that. They run a daycare center in the martial arts dojo. But once you get past those beginner levels and once you get into those advanced stages, you realize it's very different than a daycare center. And it becomes a lot more part of your life. It's a different type of community on top of that.
Mm-hmm. And so, can you go into like what martial arts you've like done, or like where you're kind of specialized in?
Okay, so I can give you, my minor accomplishment was in a minor form of Taekwondo, which I did for only 2 to 3 years, which was way back when I was really small. But nowadays I'm doing a martial arts called Kaju Kenbo, which is basically a very traditional form of MMA. That's the easiest way I can explain it. Which MMA, if you don't know, is called mixed martial arts, where people brutally punch each other to the death. Not to the death. It's like boxing, but with knees and hands and legs. But Kaju Kenbo is more of a traditional form of that. And I've been practicing it. I currently have a first degree black belt in that.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That sounds very impressive.
It does sound impressive, but in reality, everybody who has a first degree black belt is like the initial stage. It really doesn't mean much in the whole scheme of advanced belts. Holding a black belt just means that you've learned the basics. You've learned everything simple, really. You didn't advance past your initial martial art. Even though Kaju Kenbo is a mixed martial art where we have different styles like jiu-jitsu, karate, Chinese boxing, that's the only thing I really know at first degree.
So is like first degree like learning all like the moves and like the punches and stuff, or like
I can give you a 5-page list of every single move written down, and I have to memorize it all. But first degree includes something called pinions. I don't know if that's actual pronunciation, but it can be. Do you know what a kata is?
No idea.
Kata is the karate form, but a pinion is a set of moves. Like, for example, if you've seen a karate demonstration, they show off a set of flashy moves, like, flips and punches. That's what you would call a pinion. That isn't the really realistic side of martial arts. That's something we do to practice our moves, to gain confidence in using something like that in a self-defense situation. If you actually use that pinion in a self-defense situation, you're probably going to get beat up really badly.
So
but
it's like
that's one thing we do.
So it's like putting like moves together and like practicing them, but like not really like you're practicing like a real fighting situation.
Yes, actually in some martial arts they'll say, okay, this is going to get controversial. When some martial arts they say that it's going to be super useful in real life situations. I mean, if you're going against a street fighter and you flip in front of them and try to kick them in the face, they're probably just going to punch you, sucker punch you, and you're probably going to get knocked down. But yeah, kata, I think of kata as a more, what do you say, not practical side. It would be more like,
like you're trying to, like in performance.
yeah, more performance, more technical side, where you go into those little details of everything. But the other side, what we focus on, is kickboxing and Chinese boxing, which is basically what you would think of normal boxing.
Mm-hmm.
You just punch, you just kick, it's all that type of things. Combinations and all that fun stuff.
Okay. And like, so like how does this like all work? Like, can you like go through like what you do in like a week as a black belt, first degree black belt in martial arts, or like
yeah,
what kind
that's
of
actually.
you
Oh,
do?
are you gone? Are you still there? Okay. Actually, that's really loose in the term, because and as a first degree black belt, you realize the entire structure of martial arts, especially the martial arts I do, is constantly changing. What I did 5 years back is completely different to what I'll do now. For example, over time, we've been doing more practical stuff, more kickboxing, more sparring, more fighting, and more jiu-jitsu, which is more groundwork. Basically, you pull your opponent to the ground and you're basically wrestling on the ground, which is a lot more difficult than people imagine. But to say what we do in a week, we basically go month by month, because our martial art is such a broad thing. It has a lot of different things, like, for example, Kenpo sticks, boxing, and all the other things I was talking about before. Month by month, we focus on a particular subject. Like, for example, 1 month we'll focus on groundwork. 1 month we'll focus on sparring. So we're kind of like a jack of all trades. We don't really specialize in one area. Well, we are supposed to specialize in sparring, our dojo specifically. But yeah, we're more of a jack of all trades.
And I think the most interesting part about martial arts, in my opinion, as somebody who hasn't really done it, and is that, like, what's like I think you touched on this a bit earlier, but like, what's the practicality of martial arts? Like, do you think like let's say you're being mugged, right? Do you think in that situation what you've learned so far will be helpful, or do you have to like go at a higher level, or like a different martial art altogether?
Okay, so here's a funny thing. So I can't tell you much about this, but we have something called a black belt test, okay? And our black belt test is what you do to get that first degree, second degree, third degree black belt. We all test in the same area. It's a really, really brutal test. But I can tell you one thing. There's a really large running portion in the test. Something you would not imagine. Because the number one thing is, if you get into any crappy situation, you get the hell out of there. You don't try. Martial arts, self-defense is always the last thing you do. If you're fighting against someone with a knife, someone with a gun, you're going to get the hell out of that situation as fast as you can.
Oh.
But for pure practical...
That's something I wouldn't really expect. But I guess...
Yeah, it's actually really
that
funny.
Makes sense, because, I mean, running away is like 100% guaranteed chance that you won't get hurt. But combat would like increase those chances.
But self-defense always comes down to that last, like, you're screwed in this situation, you're stuck in a dark alley somewhere, and you really can't get out of the situation. That's when martial arts comes into play. But overall, the effectiveness of martial arts really depends on what style you focus on. For example, again, this is controversial, but some aspects of Taekwondo and Karate are not really useful in self-defense situations. There are certain moves and sets of moves which are really, really useless in a practical situation. But for example, things like boxing is super useful in a self-defense situation, and things like MMA. Throwing those kicks and punches which are actually meant to hit someone's face, and you've actually practiced them on an opponent. Because here's the thing, that's a famous quote by Bruce Lee said, you don't know, you have 100 plans once you get into a situation until you get kicked into the face.
I've heard that one.
And here's the problem. Once you get kicked in the face, you realize how screwed you are in the situation. So actually practicing on opponent, doing sparring and that type of thing actually makes your martial art a lot more effective. That quote wasn't accurate. It's close enough to the quote.
I've heard that before.
Yeah, the thing.
So can you like get into like some of the training that you've done and like stuff that like you've had experience with?
Okay, training. So do you want me to focus? Okay, here's the interesting thing I'll talk about training. What I've done in this past 4 out of 5 years have been basically, actually it's been 6 years now, but 4 out of 5 years has basically been the same thing, just at higher and higher intensity levels with more and more detail with slightly new variations. Overall, I haven't really expanded my base much in those 4 years. But the last year, when we had to go to something called Black Belt School, which is basically almost a year-long program where you train to become a black belt, that has taught me so much more than this past 4 years. Because at Black Belt School, it's at an entirely new level. Even my instructor, he was fearful of putting his own kids in Black Belt School because people have broken bones, bruised egos, really been humbled by that school, and it's really painful to experience, let me just say. But it teaches you so many new things, like the correct attention to detail, how to perform in a group, how to act in an actual situation, and you have to be close to perfect. You have to train to be perfect in that type of situation.
Interesting. And so, wait. Seconds.
Yeah, I just completely deviated from the original topic. Specialities. Okay. Oh yeah, like I was saying originally, my dojo, we're supposed to specifically focus on sparring and fighting. Because our dojo is under basically a chain where my instructor, let me say, he has relatives that own this chain. So he owns one dojo, and his rest of his relatives own particular dojos. But they all teach the same content. But in reality, there's a completely different atmosphere in each dojo, and how it acts, how they teach stuff, how we train. In the other type of dojo, it's more clique form, I would say. There's like small individual groups within the dojo, because the dojo is really big. There's a lot of different people coming in. But our dojo, it's a much smaller dojo, so we have very limited amount of people. It's more like a family inside this type of dojo. So in our dojo, we're supposed to be good at sparring. Now, are we actually better than the other groups at sparring? That's questionable. But what I can say is that we have a completely different mental fortitude than the other dojo.
And okay, so that's kind of interesting. And so, like, what are like the different like I'd say like levels of this? Like, is there like a tournament, or do they have like tournaments and stuff, or like?
Okay.
Is it more training focused?
So here's the interesting thing. Because karate and judo are both Olympic sports. They do that at the Olympics, which is a really high level. But what they're actually doing at the Olympics is very different than what you would use in an actual self-defense situation. So when you go to these particular type of dojos, like a judo dojo, you might have a judo dojo that focus more on the Olympic style, which is more of a sport of doing judo. Or you might go to a dojo which has more a particular self-defense style, which is more useful in practical applications. No, okay, first of all, don't go against someone who knows judo. They will chuck you to the ground in less than a sweep. They grab your hair, your body, they'll grab anything on you and just chuck you. I've had personal experience with this. But where you go will teach you different things, and that depends on the skill level, how far you want to go in what type of expertise for what type of situation. In karate, you have traditional karate, which is what they call, I can't pronounce this. It originates from Japan. There's some really, really specialized schools of karate there. which they'll focus on particular things, and it's from the overall thing, they are a lot more intense than our karate. You would call them the masters. They have learned so much over generations and generations, and they have this particular attention to detail that other karate won't have. But here's the thing, you can't discount different karate dojos here in the US or in Europe or wherever, because those might be founded on more of a self-defense style in relation to some other martial art, in relation to street fighting, knife fighting, gun fighting. Well, don't use martial arts in front of with a guy with a gun, because the guy with the gun will shoot you. But really, what level, what specialization, it all depends on the type of martial art.
So basically what you're trying to say is that that each I'd say place you're learning, so they specialize in like sports, like the sports form of a martial art.
Yeah.
Or others may specialize in self-defense. So
yeah.
So depending on where you want to go, you go to there, basically.
Yep.
And
in reality, we don't have many options. We just go to the dojo with what we started with. But if you want to branch out, there's many different types of specializations. And overall, what you would call mastery in one subject, one place, would not even be close to mastery in another place.
And so you're engaged in more of the self-defense, right?
Yeah.
And so you don't you're not going to do competitions. You're just going to keep honing your craft.
No, we're supposed to do competitions. In reality, we don't do many competitions. But we do more of the self-defense style. But as in Kaju Kenbo, we still have to practice those pinions, those katas, the original thing. We have to practice that and try to hone that to the same degree that we practice our sparring. It's not as good as our sparring, but we try to aspire to be as good as that. And we're supposed to do sparring competitions, stick fighting competitions, and kata competitions.
Okay, so it's just such a interesting topic, because I've never been exposed to this. So I'm just trying to think about, because can you just I guess guide can you just guide me through how you got started with this kind of stuff?
One random day I pulled up to a dojo and I was chucked into the dojo. No, they didn't kidnap me. But one day I just decided to sign up for a particular dojo. I didn't even know the style or choose it. I just one day just signed up for the Kaju Kenbo dojo, and I just got in and I started. So starting is
it was just arbitrary.
But but once you have knowledge about, especially when you get older, about knowledge what type of martial art, you should look at try a bunch of martial arts and see what suits you the best. Because I originally did not like Kaju Kenbo, but now I tolerate it somewhat. Because you're always going to get your ass kicked at any level. It's just you have to realize how much you love the martial arts to keep on practicing it, even through the verbal and mental abuse.
Verbal abuse?
Okay, only a black belt school. They can't do verbal excuse in the normal schools. In the black belt school, though, you have to sign a waiver, basically giving away your mental and verbal. You're going to be... okay.
In the army where they kind of yell at you.
Actually, some of the instructors, basically... So we have different levels, right? We have, in black belt, depending on what dojo and what type of martial art, you have degrees, first, second, third, fourth, fifth. At different level, once you're a black belt, you stay a black belt. Even if you quit the dojo and leave, you're still a black belt. Other belt ranks, you might lose them if you quit the dojo suddenly. And as a black belt, people get really intense. We have a couple of black belts. Once you get past third degree, you're basically one of the masters there at the dojo. We have army commanders, we have air fighters. Air Force
Pilots.
people. We have people who do MMA. We have a boxing instructor at my dojo. And you have all these people who all came together because of their love of martial arts, but they have very different backgrounds and experiences.
And so I think you kind of talked about this, about black belts. So are belts equivalent no matter where you go? Like, let's say I go to your dojo and I got like a black belt, and then go to the one somewhere else. Would they accept that, or is that it's not universal?
Oh boy, yeah, that becomes the complicated part, because you might go to a different dojo. They might have a completely different belt system where they, for example, BJJ, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, their belts have a much longer gap than what martial arts we do. For example, we might go to white belt to yellow belt to advanced yellow belt, and then orange belt, and then blue belt, and then purple belt, and then green belt. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, it's more stagnant. They have white belt, and then you have to do that for a couple of years. Then you get blue belt. You have to do that for a couple of years, and you'll get whatever belt. That might not be accurate. All I know, it's a lot more difficult to earn belts in those martial arts. And originally, in my martial art, we didn't have belts. We only had one belt, which was the white belt. It's that you just got the belt so dirty it turned to look black over time. That's where the definition, why the black belt existed originally. It was just a really dirty white belt. And here's actually a really cool thing. Some of the black belts you can get nowadays, over time, they'll turn into a white belt once the outer layer rips off.
Interesting.
It's actually really interesting. But yeah, belts are not universal, depending on what organization your dojo's part of. Because yes, dojos can sometimes be in organizations. Like here in the U.S., there are many, many, many different organizations of black belts. Dojos. That belt might be transferred, but if you're jumping from school to school, which aren't associated with each other or are different styles, you probably are going to have to start all over at white belt. Because that experience and what they teach you, like I was saying before, what they specialize in might be completely different. So what you've learned before might be completely useless in their dojo.
And is there like one central like governing authority, like in soccer, even though there's like multiple like organizations, like first like each town has its own like club or something. Is there like one like organization? Like in soccer, you have the U.S. Soccer Association, which governs the entire sport for like a country. Is there like one organization like that which like sets the rules and sets like some standards or like some things you have to learn?
Yeah. Okay. So there are many different. There's no universal organization, but there are major organizations like the WKF, which is the World Karate Federation, and then you have ITF, which is I think for Taekwondo or something else, and there's a Judo Foundation. There's big foundations, but those are only for Olympic sports, Olympic styles of martial arts. There are smaller organizations, which my dojo is associated in a Filipino association, because my instructors are all Filipino, and they all work under one federation because that's their type of style. And there's European, there's world. So everything really depends on, again, what type of specialization the dojo does. But there's no big, like over like the martial arts foundation.
So there's no like
I think
FIFA,
there isn't.
basically.
No, there's no FIFA. But there are. It would be like FIFA, but much more smaller and divided.
Interesting. Okay. And here's something I'm curious about, because in my experience, a lot of the people who've done like martial arts, like karate, judo, whatever, taekwondo, they mostly do it like as like a kid or in like their teens, like, you know, that kind of stuff. So do you think you're going to continue, like after, let's say you go to college or you like graduate or you like start working, do you think you'd continue doing martial arts then?
Mm-hmm. Okay, I would think I would do it, but I would probably be in a different dojo or open up my own dojo somewhere. But we have 40, 50-year-olds. We even have 30-year-olds at our dojo. We have separate classes for them. That's why the kids never see them. But yeah, we have people come and people still practice it after so many years. Like, for example, once you have a black belt, you don't lose that black belt. So you can come 10, 15 years later and you can come say, hey, I'm going to join the black belt class again. And yeah.
Interesting.
You'll probably be pretty rusty, but you can join again.
And so, how does like the martial arts you do in terms of like exercise is it very rigorous, or is it like a bit like easier?
Mm-hmm. Okay, I can say for the normal classes when you initially start, I would say it's mid to high level of rigorous, because they only have a certain amount of time with you, which is really only 2 times 45 minutes a week, and they have to try to push as much physical capability out of you in that limited time. They have to try to push you to learn new things, to exercise new things, and in the black belt classes especially, it's basically high to deadly amounts of physical activity. It's really, really rigorous in those levels. But it also depends on what style you're doing and what you actually are doing. Because there's some martial arts which you would think of like Tai Chi, which is basically more of a, what you would say,
it's like
traditional.
It's like yoga kind of thing, like where you're just,
like yoga, which is a lot more chillax.
Where you're
just basically
to,
moving around,
stretch your muscles. And
I
have literally no knowledge about Tai Chi, but I've seen like at like the parks, I've seen like a bunch of like older people doing like Tai Chi. So I'm guessing it's something like yoga, where you're trying to stretch or like doing something.
Depending on what style of Tai Chi you can do, it can be rigorous. But usually, what we see, it's much more relaxed, and you move back and forth, and you practice those moves. It's actually a good way of exercising. But what you would say in raw intensity, it's not very intense at all, depending on the style.
So is it? I'm guessing it's like non-combative for the most part.
Yeah, pretty much non-combative. Unless they have secret Tai Chi tournaments, which I have no idea of.
And so, I'm trying to think. What else? Is there...
Actually,
Is there anything else, like, you want to go into more detail about? Or do you think we've... Like, I'm guessing there's probably a lot more, because...
There's pretty much a lot more.
Like in martial arts in like 30 minutes, but I'm guessing there's like, is there anything more like to me, the layman who doesn't know much, to complete their view of martial arts, like basically?
Okay, to complete your view of martial arts, there's what you see in the movies, which you see martial arts which have a historical and... Have you watched The Karate Kid before?
No.
No? Really? Neither in the movies? Basically, there is a mystical and there's a historical aspect to some martial arts if you do it, especially things like Kung Fu and Karate, which are founded by thousands upon thousands of years of tradition steeped us in those particular countries, Japan and China. There are different martial arts which have the same thing. But these martial arts have almost a mystical aspect to them, as they say. Let me tell you, that mystical aspect, it doesn't really exist. But the practice of martial arts has been going on for that long. And things like, what was the temple? Shamans at the...
Shaolin Temple?
Shaolin Temple, yeah, Shaolin Temple. Those guys, if you see them how they practice, holy crud, they practice... They're supposed to be... Yep. Wait, give me a second. Yep. At the Shaolin Temple, they basically... Some of the monks there practice Buddhist scripture. And some of them practice... physical martial arts. Some of them do both. But that physical martial arts, they practice at such a different intensity. They practice 6 to 8 hours a day, even more. I don't know much about them. All I know is that they practice ridiculously hard. They're really good at what they do. Even if some of the moves might not be useful in a practical situation, they are at just a different level of raw physical capability. They can easily do the splits. They can do super high jumps. They can run. They can do all these really cool things.
Yeah. So, yeah, I've kind of seen that. Like, I've seen like a few videos of like that kind of stuff.
But don't be. Don't be fooled.
Yeah.
What you see in demos is weeks upon months of training to do those particular moves. Because you don't realize how difficult it is to do it until you're in front of a bunch of people who are criticizing your every move and watching you really stoutly and watching any imperfections.
Yeah, I think that's... Yeah, I think that's like true about so many things. Like you know, these demos that you see, like you don't see like the hard work that goes in behind them. Like, you know, the hours of practice. You just see like this polished, finished product, right? And you really don't understand how much practice actually went into some of those things.
Yeah, and people are really, really critical about watching those type of things. They'll point out every mistake, every missed detail. But martial arts, most people don't know much about them, so they can't really tell much. And when they see the people, they'll be like, wow, that's amazing. This person did a flip or something. But there are a lot more smaller details in the demo or instruction, which are much more difficult to do and are much more precise. Yet nobody really notices them.
Yeah, I guess I'd say I think you talked about like the armchair critics, right? Like I've been like watching the Euro, right, soccer tournament, and like the comments are full of like people saying, "Oh my God, he doesn't like even know how to pass." Like, you know, he can't like shoot in front of the goal. Like he's like right there and he misses. It's like, I mean, at the end of the day, they're professionals, and they actually like practice so much, and in the heat of the moment, anything can like happen. So I think it's kind of dumb that people
it is really dumb.
Try to nitpick or try to criticize when they're like they don't know much. Have you heard of the Dunning-Kruger effect?
No, actually.
So basically, if I am correct, basically it's, let me just read this Wikipedia thing because I don't want to become an example of the Dunning-Kruger effect. The Dunning-Kruger effect is hypothetical cognitive bias stating that people with low ability at a task overestimate their ability.
Oh, yep. Oh my God. Let me tell you. In martial arts, this is extremely, extremely prevalent. People, even myself, I've overestimated my ability in a certain situation or a certain task. But again, until you get punched in the face, you have 1,000 different plans. I'm misstating this quote so many different ways. But yeah, you basically get yelled at or get punched in the face once you realize how difficult the task is.
Yeah. And yeah, this is just like true about so many things. Like when you're starting off something new and you get you learn like some of the basics, you're like, oh my God, I'm so advanced at this stuff. But then it's when you keep going along that journey that you realize I know nothing, which I think kind of relates to how you said talked about your black belt, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because you're saying like the years that you put into whatever the lower levels are. The years that you put into that, you don't you learn not as it's
really
it's not
much nothing.
Yeah, basically. And then but I'm guessing, but if I was martial artist, I don't know about you, but I think like maybe like the first few levels after I clear them, I think, oh wow, I'm like, you know, Bruce Lee level. But like in reality, I really don't know much, and that's like impossible to learn without getting to like a higher level.
Mm-hmm. Let me tell you, Bruce Lee, he was an amazing, amazing martial artist. If you see any of his kicks, there's a very particular kick. He does this very, very good side kick. Have you seen it before? Where a side kick is where you basically raise your knees, you're sideways, you raise your knees, you pump out the kick, and then chamber back. I'll show you a video later.
I think, yeah.
And he does it so well, so quickly, and it requires amazing amount of power, balance, and speed to throw that kick out. Because a side kick in most situations is really difficult to pull off when you're fighting someone.
Yep.
Because it's a really weird and it's more of an unnatural kick than what you would do like a front kick or maybe a roundhouse kick. I mean, a roundhouse has been unnatural, but a side kick, when you see Bruce Lee do it, he's like, whoa!
Yeah,
you realize how
it's like
much of a higher level he's at.
It's like almost like mechanical. Like it goes out and comes in back, and it's pretty crazy.
It's just like wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's. I've never really came to appreciate like those kind of martial artists because I've always thought those were like actors and they like kind of like didn't know too much about or like you know how like you've seen like you might see like in the Avengers movie like all the actors like do like a few months of training for like combat ready like combat
I've seen it many times
like training and stuff like that. Like I always thought like some of those people like just did that but like I think now that I've learned a bit more I can kind of see that some of like the legends like Bruce Lee maybe Jackie Chan too
those guys practice a lot in martial arts but they practice in more of those actor flashy type of moves and the actor type of martial arts because they're not really the same martial arts you would practice but you can see if they especially have roots in martial arts like Jackie Chan you can see that in their performances. There's a lot of actors nowadays who perform martial arts in random movies. They really don't know what they're doing. If you've seen the first Karate Kid movie, I know this is a very sad thing. The guy really doesn't know martial arts very well. The fighting scene was really confusing to watch. If you've ever been in an actual sparring match where you fought someone, have you seen the iconic moment at the end where the guy, under the not white belt, I'm calling him the little guy, kicks up the big guy?
Yeah, I think I might have seen that. Like where he does that.
He does this weird
like, sneak kind of kick.
Yeah. If you try doing that kick on a real professional, you will get kicked or hit in the face. That type of... Okay, here's another thing. In martial arts, especially when you do sparring, there's something called telegraphing, which is basically you are showing off your move to your opponent, and your opponent can read that once you get in a high enough level. For example, if you try to kick someone, there's going to be how your body moves to deliver that kick can be seen. For example, when you throw a roundhouse kick, you have to turn your body, because throwing any kicks or punches, you have to basically create a chain within your body to get any power out of it. So when you punch, you're basically twisting your body to punch. You move your torso, your legs, your arm, everything works in motion. And once you get a high enough level, people can read that really fast. And that's what you call telegraphing. So when people like this guy is just holding that move up in the air and just watching the other guy and delivering that kick, it's like, really? Really?
Yeah. I think that just goes to show how detailed or like you have to be, and like how like what may look kind of like cool or flashy is not always very practical in a real self-defense situation.
Oh, another comment to add: do not underestimate how difficult sports like boxing and the other things is. It's that same what was that effect called?
Dunning-Kruger.
I can't pronounce. I'm just going to call it the DK effect. Okay, the DK effect. You don't realize how difficult it is to box until you're against a 6 foot tall person who weighs over 300 pounds, who can probably knock you out in one punch. That's when you really realize that, damn, boxing is difficult. Some martial arts are really difficult to do. Yeah, I think that's so true about so many different, like, things. Like, you really don't know, like, much about it, and I think you probably shouldn't pass, like, judgment onto others when you don't know much about, like, when you haven't really experienced it or haven't been through it. Yeah.
But, like, in today's world, I think it's pretty common to do that kind of thing.
Yep. People pass judgment all the time.
Yeah.
Like, for example, there's a guy at my dojo. He recently came back. I'm average height. I can say I'm exactly average height, and I am pretty much slightly less than average weight. But this guy, he's a higher up black belt than me, but he's 6'4". Now, let me tell you, trying to fight against someone who's 6'4" is really difficult. But what's amazing is that we were doing groundwork, right? So basically, we're just practicing falls and throws, people. So he throws me to the ground, right? Then he picks me up with one arm, my entire body. He just picks me up and puts me back up. And I'm thinking, like, he can lift over my weight is around average, over, let's say, at least 100 pounds with one arm, with no difficulty at all. And I'm like, what the hell? How am I gonna face this guy? So.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Oh well.
But it's like, I think I had like a similar experience playing like soccer, right? When I played back in like elementary school and stuff. Like, for some reason, some teams always had like this massive guy whose one stride would be equivalent to like 3 or 4 of the middleweight.
Yeah.
I don't even know how he was the same age or something. I don't know what kind of weird stuff they tried to pull off to get that guy to play. But there's always, like, in like a few teams, there's always that one guy who's just massive, and you're like, it's impossible to get past him. You're like trying your tricks, and it just doesn't work. And I think that just goes to show you that genetics still does play a big part.
Yeah, having a height and weight, especially your raw physical capability, is such a big advantage in any type of physical sport. Not if you're overweight or something. And that's what people usually don't realize. They have that DK effect. They think about, this underdog is just going to punch that guy. He's going to beat him up so bad. It's like, how am I going to punch a 6'4" person whose reach is longer than mine and can just knock me out? So.
Yeah, I think that's pretty interesting. What are we at? We're about 50 minutes.
Okay.
Is there anything else? Do you think there's anything more you'd like to add about martial arts, or?
Don't be scared about martial arts. Just try it. Because in reality, most martial arts if the people you'll meet are the chillest and nicest people you meet in your life. There's a lot of people who are just really nice and relaxed. But once you get on the dojo floor, they turn into completely different people. Okay? Especially during any testing periods, they turn into different people. So yeah, people are two-faced. Remember that. Don't trust anyone, and be wary of every single person you meet.
And so, like, what are, like, some, like, life lessons and stuff that you've kind of taken away from martial arts now that you've done it for a few years now? Or years now. I don't know how long you've done it.
5, 6 years. I don't know if I've been... What? Let me check. Wait. Yes, I would say around 6 years now. Do not underestimate anyone, but if someone's weaker than you, especially if someone's shorter or doesn't know about the knowledge, take it easy. Don't do anything rash. Always help and counsel the person, help them, guide them. Don't do any crazy stuff like shout at them and yell at them, why don't you know this thing? Or anything like that. Because you really don't know where their specialties lies or if they have any inabilities in certain things. But yeah, just be a calmer and patient person.
Okay. So that would be the basics of like martial arts and a bit about the martial arts world, right, Rishabh? If I could say that.
In theory, yeah.
Now, obviously, you could go on for hours and hours talking about.
I could talk about the practical things, like the practical punches and kicks, like roundhouse kicks, hook kicks, back kicks, spinning back kicks. There's so many different types of kicks. There are torpedo kicks in some martial arts, taekwondo, and there's certain punches. You don't realize how many different ways there is to throw a punch until you actually learn how to throw a punch.
Here's like a more personal question that I was kind of interested in. Do you think, like, is there like a... I think this is kind of a dumb question now that I think about it. I think we kind of already talked about it. But do you think it's like... It's like too late for like somebody like me to start, or
nah.
What would you say?
I've met people who've been doing it who just recently joined once they're 20 or 30 years old, and you realize it's not that big of a disadvantage. In fact, a lot of, especially if you're older, you tend to pick up some things more quicker. Like for example, you have a different mentality than a young child training. Especially young children, they'll probably goof around and sit around and not practice it to the same ability as basically the adults will. And it's never too late to start a martial art. But the only problem is achieving that. If you're like 50 or 60 and you have a disability, it might not be the greatest time to go into high intensity martial art. You can try your best, but it might be better to go into a more chill martial arts or low intensity. But if you're young like us, younger than a 50 or 60 year old, then you can always join a martial art and try it out. Sure, you might not be able to achieve the same skill level as someone who's practiced since they're 6, because starting at a very young age makes you really, really good at the martial art. I've seen it before. But you can still achieve a really good ability, a decent ability at martial arts.
Okay, I might consider exploring martial arts at some point. Because
actually, I have something called Buddy Day at my dojo where I can bring anyone to see. You can just practice. It's basically a free class. My dojo does free trials, so you can just try it out. If you don't really like it,
yeah, I'm thinking of picking up like a new sport, because at the moment we don't really have anything. Because I quit soccer a few years ago, and I started actually playing tennis, which has been kind of
tennis.
Interesting.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I'm not too good, but it's good exercise. An hour. Plus, I have like a lot of tennis courts nearby, so I could just I found a friend and we just play once in a while. So, yeah. But I think...
Have you tried badminton?
Yeah, I've been playing badminton since a long time, but I've not been playing competitively. So that might be one area I might want to consider.
Badminton's good because we are descended from people who know how to play badminton. But yeah,
in terms of racket sports, I've actually had a fair bit of experience with squash, if you know what that is.
Oh, really? You've played squash before?
I started when I was 8, right, and then I played until I moved out here, And yeah, I'd say I was okay. Like, I'd say my abilities aren't anything like great. Now, obviously, I'm pretty rusty. But
yeah, but you'll be better than me, who's never played squash before. It's a sport where you hit the bean thing against the wall, right?
So it's like the ball's about the size of a ping pong ball, but it's like it's like made of rubber, and there's no air inside it, so it's like, kind of squishy and stuff.
Yeah.
And then you try to hit it against the wall, and obviously since it doesn't bounce as much, it's kind of tricky because
it's a lot more tricky. Yeah, to see it. You have to have a lot of physical power behind your shots, right, to get it bounce off the wall.
Yeah. But the thing is near here there's not many like squash courts and stuff. So there's actually, I think racquetball is more popular. I think racquetball is like the one with the really, really bouncy ball, which like bounces all over the place. Played on like, I think the same court, but it's slightly different in terms of rules. But I think I might pick up racquetball. But the thing is not many people play it around here. Although there are a few like places, you kind of have to like sign up for memberships and all that. So that's like, kind of like why I haven't done that. No, I think I might just join like a badminton or table tennis thing because. Do you know if our if our school has a badminton team?
Yeah, I think they have a cricket team. I know, ping pong team. I think they had. Badminton team? I'm pretty sure we don't have. If you want, you can start one.
Like a club or something.
There's a one?
Club. Like, how we have like clubs at our school. I think there's a badminton.
Actually, make sure you check the club list because actually I am in a group that we're starting a club because there's a lot of clubs that actually get disbanded every year. There's a lot of clubs that never finish their paperwork every year and get kicked out.
Oh.
So they might be, what you would think is an official club might not be really official.
I'm kind of curious, but if it's like too personal or too many details, like revealing details, but like...
Oh, no,
like,
it's fine.
What like club are you starting? I'm kind of curious.
We were starting a tabletop games club where we would play games like, for example, there is a separate chess club, but we would play games like Dungeon and Dragon, chess, and games from who knows when.
Board
like
games?
There's a particular, any board game.
Or like, interesting. I might join.
So we would teach the tactics and the things, the history behind it one day, and then we would all do in a tournament style bracket and play it the other days.
That actually sounds like a lot of fun. I might actually join. I'm not too like big into this kind of stuff, but I'm guessing if I attended a few of your meetings, I'd probably.
Yeah, but we're in a weird sort of limbo where we got approval for the club, but we really don't have approval for the club because one of our members left, 2 COVID hit, and we were technically approved before COVID, but we were only approved now, so our club doesn't exist, or does. Nobody really knows.
The next school year, like 11, or the next school year, I think.
Yeah. We'll probably have to start in the late season. We probably can't start from when school starts. We have to probably start at springtime. So, yeah, it's a weird situation.
That's interesting. I was thinking about starting a club, but I think now that I'm so late into high school, I don't think it'd be worth it. But, or there might
starting
even
a club
be a club. Like the thing is I was part of a club, right? It had like 3 members. I think it was the History Day club. I think I told you about. It had like 3 members.
Oh yeah,
me.
yeah.
And I think 2 of them like graduated this year, right?
Oh.
And like,
that's
so I'm
sad.
like the only one there. So I don't know if that makes me default like president or something, but
is it
I don't know
an
if it's
official
even
club
like
or
official, but I might have to check that out about that. I just had to get something. So yeah, we were talking about clubs. So I think we've hit an hour. Or is there something you wanted to say?
Oh yeah. Just quick question. Are you still in the you were doing music before,
Yeah,
right?
I'm still doing that. See, the thing is,
You
I'm
do
pretty
the-
trash. I play the violin, right? And I'm pretty trash at the violin, like, compared to others. So, at this point, like, this is, like, there's like, I think I'm starting to feel the pressure of like college, right? Like, you know, you gotta go to college, you gotta go to a good college, right? So I'm starting to feel that kind of pressure. So that's one of the main reasons, because I think people have already quit. Like, a lot of people I know who've done it since like middle school and stuff, they quit. But I'm still continuing because, you know, for like college and stuff, I can say like, you know, I played for like 4 years or so. But I'm not the best. Like, this time I was like third to last in the violin section. So, but it's like fine.
You have to.
It's like fun, you know. I think when you're like in a lower chair, people kind of already like, you know what chair, like how the chairing system works, right?
Yeah,
so
better you are, you get into higher
like your chair number is the worse you are, quote unquote. And like, I think the thing is, like, when you're at the back of like the pecking order, when you're like, your chair is extremely high, like last chair, like, people kind of already know that you kind of suck at violin or like whatever instrument you play. They don't expect as much from you, and so so that's why I could, like, you know, like, get away with like half-assing all my recordings and stuff, because this year it was like obviously remote and all. But, yeah. But I think I'll continue. I doubt I'd get any higher, like, chair.
Yeah. But to really stand out on your college applications, you have to really, like, win competitions in music, right?
Yeah,
and really
but I think
stand out.
I think there's also sections for like things you've done for a few years. So I think I put it there. But in terms of like competitions, like, I recently had to apply to a few things. I have like literally no experience in competition, so that's kind of concerning. I don't have many achievements, so I've just been trying to build that up.
Especially for music, that's really difficult.
Yeah, that's why I haven't even like, tried. I took private lessons, I think, for 1 year, but then basically the teacher moved away, like somewhere nearby, and like not nearby, but kind of like close. Like, you could drive there, but then like 40 minutes, something like that. And like my mom, like I asked her, like, she moved to a different like music school where she'd teach like the same violin, private teaching. And so I asked her, like, yeah, I can probably like come there like once a week to learn. And she's like, nah, I don't think it's worth it, because you're like, you know, not that good. So I don't think it'd be worth it for you. She said she only took her best students, and, you know. Oh, ooh. But yeah, it was fine. Like, and I kind of like stopped caring back then.
Just.
No, sorry, you can continue.
Just some quick things before we should wrap this up soon. Yeah, I play piano, and I just play it just because I can, not really for anything else.
Like when did you
it's
start?
Fun for me.
When did you start?
Couple of years back. I don't know how many years. At least 3 or 4 years now. I feel old now. But yeah, I'm still pretty much a beginner, even though I've practiced it for this long. But you know Adi, right?
Yeah. He's very good at piano.
Yeah. He's very good at piano. He's played in many competitions. I've seen him win competitions. If you want advice, ask him. Yeah. Especially in music competitions.
But I doubt I'd participate in anything. I'm trying to like focus more like my strategy going into admissions is going to be like, you focus on like where you want to go like as a career, and then like right now you like participate heavily in those kinds of activities and try to get it.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going into engineering field and you do music, it's kind of like it's a weird thing to get into.
Yeah, but I mean, at the same time, like the admissions process is like kind of weird, and it's like a black box. Really like, it's not. Yeah, I'd say the admissions process in the U.S. is actually not bad compared to like India and stuff, where it's like based off.
Oh, I mean, India's is completely screwed up, but U.S. is pretty.
It's still pretty.
I mean, places.
Up. I mean, we do have like monopolies. Like College Board is such like a monopoly.
Yeah,
but still, it's better.
Oh, College Board! Nobody likes College Board.
Yeah, it's more in the U.S. It's more holistic than in India. And that means that, like, even if you score lower on the SAT, or even if you don't even send your score in at all, which, you know, it's a new thing due to COVID and stuff, even then you can get into some pretty prestigious universities based on your other achievements. So
pretty much 0 Ivy Leagues unless you are a genius. But have you seen some of the requirements for just the...
if Daddy donated a building.
Oh yeah, Daddy has to donate a building. Have you seen some of the ridiculous
I've seen
passing
like
rates
stats.
in just colleges?
I've seen like the stats of people who've gone in. It's like, holy crap, like, how can I compete with that stuff?
Especially just for... Okay, I'm just revealing what state we're in. In California, because we have such a big population, UCs... I'm not even talking about CSUs you can get into. It's fine. CSUs are not bad. UCs are ridiculous. A lot of them are really ridiculous. Like UCLA to get into, it's really difficult.
Yeah. But, once in a while I go on to YouTube and like see people's like stats and stuff and like what colleges they got into. Like just...
And then I get really more depressed about my life if I look at their stuff.
But I mean, at the end of the day, it does not really matter. Like if you get into like a prestigious, as long as like what you're learning is actually like good. Like like if you go to like, you know, some like random ass like University of Phoenix or something, like one of those like, you know, kinds of colleges, you might like see like advertisements and stuff. Like as long as you're not going to like one of those, as long as you're going to like a legit college, even if you've never heard of it, even then, like as long as you're learning something, that's good. But then obviously, when it comes to getting a job, like people say like name matters. Like, you know, they'll read that you went to like Yale or something, and they'll say, "Oh." I
mean, that's the only reason you go to these prestigious schools, because of the name.
And like here's some like another thing. I think you might have already known this, but I did not realize that, like, you know, like college courses, like if you've heard of, I think like my dad was doing some like AI stuff, like learning like some AI. So he did Stanford, like a full Stanford course.
Really?
By himself, like at home. Obviously, you don't have access to like the professors and stuff, but it's like through like so many websites. Like now, like you could do like Harvard CS50 course and learn the basics of computer science, like at Harvard level. Like obviously you won't have access to like Harvard's like, you know, servers or something like that, but still it's the same knowledge. And so that's the thing.
But here's the thing, I would say you should get a job during college or before college, because having that experience, even if you went to Hale or Harvard, and if you have no job right now and you need something to pick you off the ground, like working at a retail store until you send an application to somewhere else, so a higher end job, they'll think you're really overqualified for the job, especially if you go to places like Harvard. They might just not give you the job. Yeah.
And that's another thing about the admissions process. If like a university thinks you're quote unquote too good for them, they will reject you.
Really? They do that?
I think it's something to do with like seats, like admission seats and all that, because they want to guarantee that the amount, like the people that are actually going there, like actually, like who they sent out the acceptances to, they actually go to the university.
But not everyone's gonna accept, right? Oh, so that's why they have their waiting list. Usually,
wait lists. Like usually, they have wait lists of like people who kind of like meet the criteria, but like, you know, kind of fall short in some areas.
But like places like Harvard, who's gonna drop out of that school so early?
Mark Zuckerberg.
Okay, wait, we should wrap this up.
It's been going on for a while. Worms, like these fake gurus and stuff, like telling you to drop out of college.
Well,
I follow this guy on YouTube, like called CoffeeZilla, who like kind of exposes these guys. It's pretty like it's kind of sad seeing like these guys make such like bogus claims and people like giving their like money to them and like being frauded out of like hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
And like people you might like even trust. Like, have you ever watched the show Shark Tank?
Yes, I have. One episode.
So some of like the investors, like the rich people
Yeah.
investing in like,
Yep.
the ideas.
They are
in Shark
so
Tank.
stingy. They are really stingy.
They're kind of sketchy too. Like
Yeah.
outside of Shark Tank, like they've done some pretty sketchy things. Now, obviously, the more legit ones, like Mark Cuban.
No. I don't
He
know.
owns like
I don't know any of their names. I've seen them before.
he owns like the Dallas Mavericks and stuff. So he's kind of more legit. But now, if you go like further down the spectrum to like somebody like Draymond John, I think that's what he's called. He's done some like pretty sketchy stuff, like with Grant Cardone and stuff. So there's like it's like a whole other can of worms, and you got to be very careful with your money, where you who you give it to in terms of
Yeah, especially those big businesses. I mean, Shark Tank. These people are they'll take actually substantial portions of your company for specific amounts of money you'll give, right? Stocks and all that. And you are really trusting your company to a sketchy person you met on
First
reality
of all,
TV.
I think
so.
that's kind of fake. Like I think like half those companies are kind of fake. Like just like how America's Got Talent is just like fake.
Yeah. I mean, is that really debatable? America's Got Talent is fake?
I think it is, but like some of like the more talented acts, like I think those people actually are very talented. Now,
Yeah.
like if you watch the show, you might see like some like silly, like random ass stuff, and those are probably thrown in by the producers to like make it more entertaining. But obviously, the talent, and even the talented people, like obviously some of their backstories might be faked, right? They might already be like professional singers and all that. But they're like
Just
posed
for
as like
TV.
some random person from like Iowa or something.
Yeah. Actually, we should end this soon.
So I guess I'll just do a quick sign off. So that's it for today. Next week, I think we might go into like studying and stuff, and like have a break from these explainer episodes. But anyway, yeah, that's it for this week's. I hope you enjoyed listening to Rishabh talk about martial arts, and I really did enjoy that, and I learned a lot. So anyway, see you until next time.
Bye-bye.
That's it for this week's episode.
If you have any suggestions, episode ideas, or feedback, please leave a comment on our YouTube channel.
Thank you for listening to today's episode, and until next time, have a nice day.